In this lesson, we are going to talk about shapes and parameters. Now, if you remember me saying in the last video for lesson 3 that I did not get to type your journal prompt for anything from lesson 4 through lesson 17. So you're gonna type the journal prompt into your Unit 5 journal, and this is it right here. The rect block, and rect stands for rectangle, okay? The rect block has 2 inputs that control where it's drawn, the X and Y position. If you wanted these commands to draw different sizes of rectangles, what additional inputs would you need to give the blocks? Now, we did talk about this towards the end of the last lesson. So pause the video here so that you can answer that in your journal and then come back. Our key vocabulary for this lesson is parameter. A parameter is additional information provided as input to a block to customize its functionality. So if we think about the rect block, anything that goes in between these parentheses, those are parameters. So our question of the day, how can we use parameters to give the computer more specific instructions? No activity guide for this, just the levels on Code Studio. So let's look at level 1. Look at the line of code in the workspace. All right, make sure your lesson 4. Make sure also that it says version 2022 at the bottom and not 2021, okay? Look at the code and try to figure out how the last 2 inputs in the rect block work. Okay. If we know this is X and this is Y, what is this and what is this? If you were able to hover, you would be able to see that X, Y, the 3rd input is the width, and the 4th input is the height. Okay. If we run this, this is what we see. Let's click to show our grid. All right. So right now, the width of our blue rectangle and our red rectangle is the same. The height of the blue rectangle is 200 and the height of the red rectangle is 150. And if you were to count 50, because each block is a size of 50, so 50, 100, 150. All right, change the numbers in the second rect block to make the red rectangle longer than the blue one. So if this is the height of the blue one, pick a number that will make the red one longer. Now, technically, you can choose any number greater than 200, right? But I tried this yesterday. 201 is not very obvious, and I'll show you. So, 225 would work. 201, technically longer. Very difficult to tell visually, right? So if you were trying to make it look more like the picture, we would choose something like 250. Yeah? Okay. So make your red rectangle longer, and then let's move on to the next level. I'll do level 2 with you. You're going to follow the instructions on each level. If you get stuck, try the Help and Tips tab and the code documentation. And in the last video, I gave you the URL for that code documentation. So let's look at level 2 together. Write code that makes an orange ellipse behind the green one. Don't worry about the exact size as long as the green ellipse is entirely inside of the orange one. Let's go ahead and show our grid and hit run. So we have a green ellipse and we need to make an orange ellipse. So if we go ahead and change the color, and if I were you, I would just type in orange and then choose the ellipse block. And if This is the X and the Y. We should be able to keep the X and the Y the same. 400, 400, that's a big circle. We don't necessarily want it to be a big circle. We want it to be an oval. So if this is the width and this is the height, let's make our width just a little bit larger than the width of this one. So let's say 250. And let's reset. Okay, let's change. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's the same size or not. But the real problem here now is that our green ellipse is hidden by our orange ellipse. Where did it go? It's still there. We just can't see it. So what would we need to do in order to make the green ellipse show up on top? If you remember in the previous lesson that I emphasized that the order of your commands is very important. Okay, so if we said draw the green circle, the green ellipse first, that's exactly what it did. And then it drew the orange ellipse right on top. So it's just like painting. Once we draw the green circle, we cannot go back and draw an orange circle underneath it. So what we need to do is change the order. And if you were able to figure that out on your own, then great job. Now we have something that looks similar to our intended image. And so once you're done with that, go ahead and click Finish. All right. Pause the video here so that you can continue working through level 5. When you get done with level 5, come on back and we will continue. So level 6, I want you to do all of the options that are on level 6, okay? It's only showing 2 pictures here, but I think you have 3 options. Yeah. So when I was in class yesterday, I actually only had time to do 2 of these. So if it's taking you a decent amount of time, then just do 2 out of the 3, okay? It is good to practice, but you're really focusing on problem solving. And this is critical thinking. Okay, so this is a portrait of a graduate skill. If we are supposed to be submitting evidence of these portrait of a graduate skills, you can literally take a picture. Okay, I didn't finish this one. Okay, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to draw a triangle. And I didn't learn how to draw a triangle until later on under the number 8 challenges, okay? So you are, and this is, I mean, it's critical thinking, but it's also creativity, okay? Because you're finishing the scene however you want. This is what you're starting with. What are you gonna do with it? And so you can take a before screenshot of this for portrait of a graduate purposes. Take a before screenshot, and then whenever you get done after you've changed it, take an after screenshot and then put those in a Google Doc and write a paragraph about how you went through this process. Talk about the struggles and how you overcame them, because that's a bunch of the portrait of a graduate skills right there, okay? And you're already doing it, so you might as well get credit for it somewhere else. So once you have done all 3 of these, or at least 2 of them, go ahead and move on to your assessment level. Okay? Remember that on level 7, you can choose the rubric link to see how I'm going to be grading that, and it'll be on a scale of 4, 3, 2, or 1. Keep that in mind. And then for level 8, you see, this is where you learn how to draw triangles, but also on, let me show you. This one, you learn how to draw a bunch of different shapes. And so that one might be more helpful. And then this one's more like creating any shape that you want. Okay, so I would choose a couple of these. Or if you have time, do all of them. Now, if we're going to be making an interactive card, this one right down here might be more helpful because you're creating actual figures. And if you're interested in moving on towards the creating your own game part at the end, then being able to create figures for your game will also be helpful. So pause the video, finish everything, and then come back here for your wrap-up journal. Remember, you're going to have to type this journal. Use your parameters to control your shapes, location, and size, right? Can you think of any other situations in which parameters might be useful? You can always go back to the code documentation link on code.org to see some examples of other parameters, to get some ideas about when you might use those, when they're going to be useful. So pause the video here while you answer that journal. And then we want to remember parameters. So somewhere on your journal, I would maybe make a slide in which I didn't do this. So if you've already made a copy of the journal, then you'll need to create a slide just for vocabulary. But if you are watching this video, check to see if your journal has a slide for key vocabulary, and then just add this vocabulary word into your into that slide, okay? And then I also might put like lesson 4 in parentheses, so that way you remember where we got specific whenever we started talking about it. So answer your question of the day again in your journal. How can we use parameters to give the computer more specific instructions? And with our question of the day, we are essentially summarizing what we learned how to do in this lesson. So, as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.